For the Series 65 exam, we are covering the critical distinctions between accredited investors and qualified purchasers. These definitions are crucial because they determine who is eligible to invest in securities that are exempt from registration with the SEC, like private placements and hedge funds. The core idea is that these investors can fend for themselves without the full protections of SEC registration. First, let's break down the accredited investor, which is defined under Regulation D of the Securities Act of 1933. There are three main ways for an individual to qualify. The first is the income test. An individual must have an annual income of over $200,000 or $300,000 jointly with a spouse for the past 2 years, with a reasonable expectation of meeting that level in the current year. The second is the net worth test, a net worth exceeding $1 million, either individually or jointly with a spouse. The biggest exam trap here is that the value of your primary residence must be excluded from this calculation. For example, if a client has a net worth of $1.5 million, but $700,000 of that is home equity, their net worth for this test is only $800,000, and they would not qualify. The third way is through professional credentials, such as holding a Series 7, 82, or, most relevant for us, a Series 65 license in good standing. Now, let's move to the qualified purchaser, which is a higher standard defined under the Investment Company Act of 1940. This designation is critical for private investment funds, like hedge funds, that want to avoid registering as investment companies. An individual is a qualified purchaser if they own at least $5 million in investments. An entity can also be a qualified purchaser if it owns and invests on a discretionary basis at least $25 million. The key exam point is the distinction in what is being measured. Accredited investor status looks at income or net worth, while qualified purchaser status looks specifically at the value of investments. For example, an individual with a $10 million net worth that includes a $5 million home and $5 million in a stock portfolio would be a qualified purchaser based on their $5 million in investments. This distinction matters for the types of funds one can access. Private funds operating under Section 3(c)(1) of the Investment Company Act can sell to an unlimited number of accredited investors, but are limited to 100 total investors. However, funds operating under Section 3(c)(7) can only sell to qualified purchasers, but they can have up to 2,000 of them. This is why many large hedge funds are structured as 3(c)(7) funds. The most common point of confusion on the exam is mixing up the $1 million net worth test for accredited investors with the $5 million in investments test for qualified purchasers. Remember this simple hierarchy. All qualified purchasers are also accredited investors, but not all accredited investors are qualified purchasers. Here's a mental shortcut to keep them straight. Think of A for access and Q for quantity. Accredited gets you access to the world of private placements. Qualified allows funds to accept a greater quantity of high net worth investors. For free practice questions, AI-powered explanations, and more exam prep tools, visit openexamprep.com. That's openexamprep, all one word, .com.